In this video, we're going to be discussing stormwater pollution and how it affected the Houston area after Hurricane Harvey. Harvey hit the Texas coast on August 25th and lasted approximately 6 days, dumping more than 50 inches of rain around the Houston area. Harvey hit Houston so hard because Houston is a relatively flat landscape and is barely above sea level in most places. The direct drain away from Houston is Galveston Bay, and that's not above sea level at all. The hardest hit areas of Houston were around the southeast area, Greens Point, Meyerland, areas along the Buffalo Bayou, because that is kind of the main drainage system for Houston. Those areas typically do see the most flooding in mostly any kind of heavy rain that Houston sees. 100 wastewater treatments reported that there were more than 2 million spills during Hurricane Harvey that released many toxic contaminants into the environment. To give us a different perspective on the effects of Hurricane Harvey, we're going to go to Rory, who is going to give us an ecological aspect.
As Katrina stated, that Hurricane Harvey caused so much mayhem for the Houston area. It was just unbelievable. The animals were just out and about everywhere. And I don't believe anyone really thought of the fact of when you have the pets along with any wildlife, they're trying to get to safety as well. Now, what they didn't think about also, for those animals that couldn't make it to safety, they died, they had feces in the water. So along with those corpses and all the nastiness that was floating around, that's additional pollution that no one was really thinking about. On top of that, you have to think about all the trillions of gallons of water that were kind of pressed down on everything that it could get to. All the rainwater coming down, breaking branches, toppling over trees because of the soft soil that was there. Trying to maneuver through the city was almost impossible in some areas. So that's the pollution that nobody really thinks about. They look at it as a tree. It's definitely the pollution that was in the area. The only thing that seemed to matter at that point was the fungus that grew in the homes and in the buildings that we had to go back to work in once the water was able to recede, and the mold, the fungus, and everything else that caused many more health problems, that caused much more problems than what it normally would in the event that you just have to break out a few baseboards. But you have to make sure that those things are covered. So with that being said, the pollution was much more than what anyone could have ever thought in the ecological system. So, I mean, who knows? And that's where the economy part comes in. Back to you, Katrina.
Thank you, Rory. To give us a little bit more insight, we're going to go to Landry. He's going to give us the economical effects of Hurricane Harvey.
Well, looking further into the devastation done by Hurricane Harvey, we wonder, will the economy ever be the same? Hurricane Harvey was one of the costliest hurricanes in U.S. history. It was estimated to be over $100 billion in damage. When we look at things that impacted the economy, one of the things that really impacted the economy was when the oil refineries shut down due to the hot water rising, in which it made the gas prices go up. Another thing that impacted the economy was the people, in which, with this being the third major flood since 2015, a lot of people decided to leave. Also, the people left due to losing their jobs after the hurricane and not being able to rebuild, not having insurance. This hurricane also destroyed the land in which it flooded a lot of the areas because the hurricane produced 27 trillion gallons of water. So with the money the government gave, they decided to use it towards making better drainage systems and using it for flood migration systems. Another one of the impacts was the animals. Like the fire ants, they stuck together on each other as they floated in a big bunch until they found a dry area. On the other hand, alligators and snakes went into neighborhoods trying to find higher land in which people had to remove them. Now the dogs and cats were separated from their families, and some were reunited and others were lost. A lot of dogs and cats were placed in shelters along with some agriculture animals. After everything, the economy is still making a comeback along with the recovery. Back to you, Katrina.
All right, thank you for that insight into the economical aspects of Harvey Landry. Now we're going to roll on over to Sandra, who is going to give us some research behind the factors that affected Houston during Harvey.
Thank you, Katrina. The reality is that our area is not new to storms of this magnitude. So we had the time and the ability to project the path that the storm would take and the ability to plan ahead. But the decisions were made on the part of the people that were making the calls to basically act now that they had no way of knowing about the potential risks. While we've had several storms in our history that should have told us exactly what needed to be done to be prepared for this situation. Now, the reality is that sources such as the Insurance Journal reported that in a single chemical plant, they released 1/2 billion of toxins and chemicals and carcinogens within their wastewater. So that multiplied on a scale of 500 petrochemical plants within our energy corridor. Those numbers are staggering. That is a true issue because then you have people that are wading through those waters to escape their homes and their vehicles to avoid the floodwaters. And they're being exposed to things that they have not been told about because the Environmental Protection Agency actually made the call that the levels of toxicity were not high enough to warrant a cleanup effort. However, testing was not nearly on a proper scale as it was with prior storms. It was neglected. However, they have decided to, rather than look back, look forward on how they can correct those issues. So studies are in place and projects are in place in order to help with home elevation, with restructuring for how the floodwater would flow rather than into residential and commercial areas. And as well, they're looking at regulations to be more firm as far as industries and petrochemical plants with how they store and maintain the temperature of their chemicals. So overall, we do have a plan going forward so that we never experience this issue again. Back to you, Katrina.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. I think we all can agree that Harvey came along and it devastated everyone. I know I for sure I wasn't expecting anything of that magnitude. I really kind of underbidded it. I didn't, try to prepare anything, and I paid for that later. I think a lot of Houston paid for it later. We just were ill prepared. We weren't prepared for what was about to happen. It's evident in the runoff that we're receiving from the stormwaters. With all the devastation that Harvey caused, one thing that it did teach us is that we need to be prepared. We realized that having a strategy and having a plan was necessary. In Houston, we always come back, and we come back stronger, and we come back better. We
are
Houston.
Strong.
Thank you.